In the scorching summer of 1932, the Australian government found itself in a very peculiar position, declaring war on a bird. Not just any bird, but the tall, flightless, and wildly fast emu. You see, after World War I, many Australian soldiers had returned home only to face a new battle, the Great Depression. As part of a resettlement scheme, they were given plots of farmland in Western Australia. Eager to make the land work, these veterans toiled the soil, sowed wheat, and raised livestock, until an unexpected enemy descended upon their fields in the thousands. The emus had migrated inland after their breeding season, and they liked what they saw: endless fields of wheat and plenty of water. To the emus, it was paradise. To the farmers, it was a nightmare. Over 20,000 emus roamed the region, trampling crops, knocking down fences, and drinking precious water. The farmers were desperate. They asked the government for help. The government, perhaps still thinking like it was in wartime, responded not with scarecrows or fences, but with machine guns. Enter Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery, who was dispatched along with 2 soldiers, 2 Lewis machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The mission was simple: eliminate the emus, but nature doesn't follow military orders. Phase 1. Emus versus Lewis guns. On November 2, 1932, the operation began near Campion. The soldiers spotted a group of 50 emus and opened fire. The birds scattered. A few were hit, but most escaped unscathed, disappearing into the bush faster than expected. The soldiers realized these weren't mindless creatures. They were agile, quick, and surprisingly coordinated. On November 4th, a second attempt was made near a dam where over 1,000 emus had gathered. This time, the gunners opened fire at close range. Their gun jammed. Again, the emus scattered, and only a dozen fell. It seemed the emus had better battlefield tactics than anticipated. They broke into smaller groups, used the terrain, and outpaced the gunners with ease. In one report, Major Meredith described the birds as having a remarkable ability to evade bullets, and noted that even when wounded, an emu could run for miles. Phase 2. Mounted machine guns and emu generals. Desperate, the soldiers mounted a machine gun on a truck, but emus run fast, up to 50 kilometers per hour, and the truck couldn't keep up on the rough terrain. The gun couldn't aim properly while moving, and once again, the birds escaped. Rumors even began to circulate that the emus had a leader, a tall, black-plumed bird who always stood watch and alerted the others. Of course, this was more myth than fact, but the morale among the troops was low. Over the course of a week, only about 200 emus were killed, out of tens of thousands. The government began to rethink the campaign. On November 8th, the operation was suspended. Newspapers had a field day. Headlines mocked the military's failure. Emus won, humans 0. A second attempt, and a second defeat. But the farmers were persistent, and so a second campaign was launched later that month. This time, the soldiers had better luck. They reportedly killed around 1,000 emus in just a few weeks. But ammunition was running low, and the birds continued to outmaneuver them in droves. After spending over 2,500 rounds of ammunition and achieving only minor results, the government officially called off the war. The aftermath: defeated by birds. By the end of the so-called Great Emu War, Major Meredith returned to base. When asked about the experience, he famously said, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world." The emus, meanwhile, went on with their lives, likely unaware they had just triumphed over the Royal Australian Artillery. In the following years, the government tried alternative methods, building better fences, offering bounties, and supporting farmers with resources. But nothing quite captured the absurdity or attention like that brief moment in history when men went to war against birds and lost. To this day, the emus remain undefeated. And that, dear reader, is how a flightless bird became a legend.